like leaves or something, you know what I'm saying, gets pushed out or whatever. I mean,
Right.
that really has got to raise a lot of flag, a lot of red flags, whatever. Like, what the heck is going on? Why did this person, you know, depart? I mean, because it's, often at least it seems when people are just not listening. I mean,
Yeah.
Lehman. We had Madeline Antoncic, I think was her name,
Yeah.
before Lehman collapsed, and then I think she got shoved aside or pushed out, or if I remember, I mean, it's been a long time, but I mean, well, the problem is when you've got risk people who are on the risk side, the control side, telling you stuff that the people in the front office, whatever stuff that they don't want to hear,
Right. Right.
it makes for a very unpleasant situation, and that's when one's job tenure can be short.
Yeah. 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 And they're a profit center, you're a cost center and everything. Yeah, let me pivot to, so this is an ECB guide on internal models. And what I liked looking at it a little while ago was this section where they talk about the right way to internally validate market risk models.
Uh-huh.
Bear with me. So there are some things like suggesting a year of frequency, um, you know, now as far as the granularity, I think that's an interesting thing of back testing. Like
Mhm.
they say, make sure that you do it fairly high up.
Right.
Always the issue of cancellation or diversification risk that might be hiding something and correlations that may not hold up. Um, Now, what I thought was, if they talk a little bit about FRTB, so some of this is in that context. There was something in there, what you were saying, what we've been saying a lot about was that the VAR calculations are moving targets. So one thing that they mentioned here was having why you overshoot. This is all sort of bread and butter. But having portfolios, hypothetical portfolios, yeah. So I don't know how common these are, but this is like, to what extent, because a lot of the things when you talk about breaking back testing are using actual bank data.
Mhm.
So what they're saying is, I guess, that supposing in Europe you mandate that everybody do these calculations on a fixed portfolio, that everybody's doing the same one, and then it would be easier for them to compare. Um, Hypothetical portfolios and
Portfolio.
internal model. Yeah, right.
But if everybody's portfolio is different, then what? I
Right.
mean, what's the point? I mean,
Well,
are you
you can
trying to
argue
choose
both ways, but at least
if a model just works on that particular portfolio, or if you know, I mean, can I tell you?
yeah, I guess this is like a yardstick or so. It's like, you get a guy on your sports team, you want to know how fast he can run the 100. That's not saying that much about him, but um
Yeah,
so
of course.
I guess I'm reading this here. I guess I'll ask my European friends, whether this actually happens.
Mhm.
Um, because I haven't explored that much of this. Most of what I explored, like I said, was the business before and the cultural differences between the UK and here. But
Right.
I thought that there was some pretty good thought put into the latest PRA document that it
Mhm.
says a lot more about inventory, for instance, that's in than is in SR 11.7. So this is not so much about what the regulation should be, but again, from the standpoint of a textbook, it's what should a student understand about what can be put in inventory. Um,
Right. Yeah.
but that model ID. So again, yeah, John's paper, if you may be familiar with it, is basically just having that thing, having the model ID be like a barcode that you scan. And so that when a regulator says, what's the model you use the most frequently? Or, how much capital is wrapped up in this model, or how much notional or something like that, like you can't really answer that these days. Um, so that being able to do that, I think is useful.
Of course. Yeah.
You see, so that's going back to my agenda. Yeah, and then in the AI thing, so we certainly talk about such things as under and overfitting. Um, I'm going to introduce predicted R squared just because of, leverage points and things like that. People not thinking about it so much. I guess, and then my collaborator, he wrote a whole section on neural networks, which I think is useful so that students understand that at an intuitive level. Essentially, this section is about how there can be good ones and bad ones, good and bad quality.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
the thing you have to be concerned about with these models, especially, I mean, if you are in, if you're, depending on the nature of your business, I mean, if you're in some kind of a, you know, I don't know, let's say consumer kind of retail business, and
right,
you're making, your models are making lending decisions or rate decisions or whatever, and there could be implicit bias in there that
right,
even if you're not considering, you think you're not considering certain things about the individual, but then you wind up rejecting a large percentage of people that just happen to be of a certain you know
you're
racial
right. Yeah.
ethnic background or something like that. You've got a mess on your hands. But you
Yeah,
know
no, we can
uh,
say that. I think that's been brought up. I think we did say that I can write a section on that. I think a lot of this is this chapter model risk is mostly me and Chandrakant. And Chandrakant's very specific on things like neural networks and the
mhm,
application to sanctions and any money laundering, OFAC, et cetera.
right.
That's what he does. But the bias thing I've heard, but that particular is outside the banking sector, I think, because you're not really getting data on clients. I think where the rubber meets the road is like a life insurance, like prospecting for life insurance, and you're only going after, white guys or something, white guys over
Well,
50.
I mean, I spent a couple of years at Northwestern Mutual actually
Okay.
working on exactly
Oh,
that kind of stuff.
good. Okay.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
they have they put in a lot of effort on first of all, in most insurance business, in particularly in life insurance, the agents, the sales force are they're not employees of the company. They're technically, independent contractors. So they're earning commissions. And so if they don't
Right.
sell any insurance, they don't eat. But,
Right.
but there's a lot, at least at Northwestern, there's a lot of efforts on diversity and, inclusion. And there's some, they've brought on, people to run their various agencies in various places that, are, let's say African American, for example,
Right.
who do very, very well. I mean, they're, it's, I think that they actively try, to not avoid, they're really focusing on, let's say the health aspect, if they have to underwrite something,
Mhm.
with the medical aspects of the person. But, a lot of their efforts, are a lot of, at least when I was there, a lot of, big chunk of the work was trying to find parameters, models that would work for automated underwriting, where you
Right.
didn't have to put the information in front of a human, because that would really slow down the process. And for people that were within a certain age group that didn't report any kind of health issues, et cetera, et cetera. Whether you're going to send somebody out to give them a physical exam and take a blood work.
Right.
It used to be that they would always do that, but
That's complicated.
especially during COVID, that became a real problem. And so, if you're trying to figure
Right.
out, well, what risks can we just run through a model with, and take certain of them and compare them against what a human underwriter would do, et cetera, and see how well it works. And they basically, you know, put a heck of a lot of resources towards that, and which kind of gobbled up away resources from the stuff I was trying to work on, which was
Right.
not not good for me, but my team. But but whatever. But it's
Well,
but I think you know in that kind of thing, the agent, who's putting forward the application of the customer, of the prospective customer, he's obviously got a vested interest in getting it approved, in
right.
terms of the, because he's gonna, if it doesn't happen, then he's not gonna earn anything, because it's
Right.
they're on a commission. So then you have to, what you have to look at, especially when you've got, like your fraud detection models, is that the people who in the company, what they call the home office of the insurance company, which is where I was, you have to keep an eye on all of your agents,
Yeah.
to basically see, if somebody is, if somebody is having, like, let's just say, if they're doing weird stuff or whatever, and if they're, they got, we put together stuff that's like keeping an eye on all of their all their chats and stuff like that, and looking for words,
Right.
would raise red flags, where there's where there, I guess not that much stuff is unrecorded phone calls, whatever, but just looking at all this stuff and trying to find, just trying to detect the bad apples, before they can do too much damage, whether it be essentially defrauding the company by pushing through an application from somebody who you know where they're not disclosing all the information that they ought to, because they want to get the thing approved. But I mean, if you get a situation where somebody's writing a lot of insurance business, and then within a short period of time that the policy lapses or gets canceled or something, or whatever, I mean, that's
That's
kind of like not a good situation.
So some kind of adverse selection. Yeah, I mean, I certainly think we could say something about implicit biases here, because just from the model perspective, I don't think policing your salesman or whatever, that's harder, but because I also know that there are some legal things. I mean, I talked to New York Life about this early on, and they said that Colorado, among other states, was making it so that you did have to be aware of implicit bias.
Oh yeah,
In
okay.
any model, so that there's a law that they all have to go through. But
Oh, that's interesting.
it's harder to get a sense because, as you know, insurance is by state. So
Yeah, I know. It's New York has got different laws than all the other,
right,
you see all these insurance companies say, well, if you're in New York, then it's underwritten by, such and such,
right,
blah, blah, New York company. And
right.
otherwise it's, I mean, Northwestern is based in Wisconsin, so their main regulator is the Wisconsin Insurance Department. But, there still is a lot, they're operating in every state and everything, but it's, there's just a lot of things to keep track of, and just making sure that the agent is licensed in whatever state it is that the customer's in, and that kind of stuff. I mean, it can be just a big kind of a headache. But
Yeah. So let me close this up. Look back at the agenda. I think I propose just go to 3:45, and then I've actually been running around all day with this, that, and the other thing.
yeah,
But yeah. So from here, I'd like to push it east to the Middle East and South Asia, like Mumbai. So go a few hours. So this is supposed to be 8 to 10 p.m. in Europe, so that people could come home from work and do this. And by having it at 8 in the morning, which is what it was before, there were very few people coming from Europe, and they would say, this is during office hours. So now I guess they're going to say, this is outside of my office hours. So you can't win, but
yeah, yeah, I know.
but I think it's still useful. The last couple of things are just that the meetings are streamed live on YouTube, although I tried that at the beginning of this and I got an error, so I'll have to investigate that. But the minutes, which are done, which are AI, they're done. It's taking minutes. I started that a little late, but you'd be surprised how much it can pick out and say what we said.
Yeah. Hmm. Oh well, I guess so. You're saying that what we're saying right now is being recorded and put out on YouTube and stuff like that. Is that right?
No, it's just a text document that'll be sent to me, and I'll put it in
Oh,
LinkedIn. But yes, the first thing, right? I don't think YouTube works. Usually,
no, I'm just saying I would be a lot more certain, because it's sort of like, I mean, it's sort of like you and I were just having like a one-on-one conversation.
right?
Nobody else is.
That's right.
I'm just saying I'd be
Well,
a lot more circumspect about what I would be saying, if I were,
yeah, I can be clear at the
other
beginning, but
people
I
could.
don't see it. I'm looking here at the channel, and I don't think it worked this time.
Okay.
I can every time I put this agenda, I can emphasize that in the announcement. I say that it's streamed on YouTube Live, and that we archive all of them there because it's easy.
Uh-huh.
That's simple to do that, so you can look at past ones. It doesn't look like this one, like the last one says that it recorded was July 16th. So your secrets are safe. But I should probably be a little bit more explicit. You're right. But like when you do a Zoom recording, it'll tell everyone. Whereas with this thing, it's a little bit of sleight of hand. You have to have a paid Zoom account. And it took some configuration, but it's seamless now. I, of course, had to create yet another YouTube account and this and that. But yeah,
Right. Yeah. So,
it's not like we're running for president or something, so we don't have to watch everything we say.
yeah. Yeah. So
but
just saying, you guys busy over there, I guess, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess the other thing I'll put a plug for me if you talk to anyone who's because I'm not sure exactly what I want to do next. I get a few pennies from an Airbnb that I set up here in Brooklyn. More than a few pennies, pays a few bills. But I'd
Yeah.
like to get back to a Wall Street salary, or at least something that's more significant, that's whatever, six figures and so on. So
You and me both.
you and me both. So
Yeah.
I applied, maybe you also applied, but I applied to be the director of the math finance program at Columbia, the one in the math department,
Oh,
where,
yeah, it's that fellow Nielsen passed away, right?
yes, that's right. Lars died suddenly. And so I'm an
Seems
alum
like
of
there's a bit of that going around. I mean, with Peter Carr. I mean,
yeah, Peter was a few years back. I remember when I heard that,
dang.
thinking, I've been single for a while, so I can tell you the girlfriend when certain things happened, right? So that was
Well,
a few
yeah.
girlfriends ago. That must have been before, wasn't that
Yeah.
before COVID or yeah, I think.
Well, I knew, when Peter was still in the hospital, and he was still, on life support in the hospital, which was
Wow.
a long, I don't know, a couple of months, I think he was there.
Yeah,
Friends who whispered to me that this kind of unfortunate situation was happening, and
right. I
it's
didn't I was totally, yeah, Leon Tadevosian,
yeah,
I think we both know. He told me about it after Peter had passed, but I'm not sure what it is. From the times I talked with him, he seemed like a great guy, and he remembered what I worked on. I was interested in the dynamics of corporate bond bid offer at one point,
uh-huh.
whether
Right.
you could model that and if you could make money on it, and even have an option that would, like lock in a bid offer and things like that. It was never something a desk asked me to develop. I just sort of liked, I had access to a lot of that data. So that must have been like around 2001, 2002 when I was at JP Morgan.
Yeah, that's the key thing, is getting data.
Right.
As more and more things have become electronic, you wind up getting more data, because back in the day, when everything was over the phone,
Right.
you didn't
I was
have
trying to remember.
so,
Yeah, I was trying to remember the post that I wrote this week, but I think it was a Times one, right? About how AI may be on the way out or may have peaked just because people are now withholding data from them a lot. I mean, that's what it sounds like. Maybe it's because they want to come out with their own thing, or maybe it's because they haven't learned the old lesson that knowledge is power, and I guess data is
yeah.
knowledge. So yeah,
Or, people just don't want to give away stuff for free. You got,
right,
organizations like the New York Times, where all the stuff that's, available out there is being scooped up by these large language models and whatnot for training.
right,
And,
right.
people are saying, hey, we put a lot of work and a lot of money into developing this, and you just basically think you can take all this for free. I don't think so.
Yeah, I try to say a few things about LLMs, but I think it's hard. I interviewed for Jeffrey, was it Jeffrey's position? Yeah, in any money laundering. And the interviewer said, so do you understand how these AI models of anti-money laundering work? And I know that they're all off-the-shelf third-party applications that are black boxes. So I said, well, I think they're black boxes. Do you understand how any of them work? And the guy said, no. So why are you asking me the question? You're not going to be able
Yeah.
to cut the model. I mean,
Well, maybe they're trying to find somebody who does know how it works.
yeah, someone from the inside, right?
That's the challenging thing. But the funniest thing is when you see these job postings where they're looking for somebody, with you know, you know, n years of experience on a
Right.
particular topic, where, or a particular technology or whatever, but that technology has only existed for the past K years, and then
Exactly.
is greater than K. It's just hilarious. I saw someone looking for somebody with 5 years experience in LLMs and stuff like that. It's like,
Yeah.
well, unless you were at Facebook or, you know, one of these firms that invented this stuff, and why would one of those people, who's earning these people get paid enormous amounts of money in these tech companies. Why would they want to come to work for a bank or whatever?
No, totally, totally. Yeah, I mean, I'm shaking the trees with LinkedIn. I should be doing more networking, but I feel like the people I'm meeting doing this office hours and hopefully maybe there'll be some royalties from the book. I don't think so, but sort of taking that on the road. If I could get every, model financial engineering program in the world, at least in the English speaking world, to get a copy of this textbook. And also a lot of the motivation for writing it, I think I need to wrap, but was just seeing at Jefferies the junior FEs from Ernst and Young, and then even more so for KPMG, that they really didn't understand what validating model meant. Or they had made some significant confusion between, for instance, the risk-free kind of or the you know, the real-world measure like PFE of credit versus you know, the why am I blocking? Versus the add-on, the credit add-on to derivatives prices, which is credit
CVA,
CVA, right?
Yeah.
So I had one
yeah.
trying to vet PFE by using CVA, and it's like, no, you can't do that. I mean,
you're going in a circle.
Well, yeah. I mean, how can you compare something that's in the physical measure to something in the, you know, deal measure? So anyway, whatever it was, but that also is like the tension between the first and the second line. Yeah,
you gotta mind your P's and Q's, you know.
right. That's
I mean, no, I mean, when I was in you know, I spent a couple of years in the counterparty credit risk at B of A,
right.
About a decade ago, and I mean, we had a lot of models or model components that were shared, you know, with between the front office and you know, with that priced the CVA, and in the risk area that was essentially, you know, working on, you know, establishment of credit limits and that other kind of stuff.
Right.
And you know, the big part of it was basically the change of measure, you know, so that a model could be, you know, could work in either situation for, you know, in the Q measure or the P measure for whatever purpose it was, but trying to keep it consistent by putting together, you know, the single thing so that it would be consistent. And it's not easy, but I think you know, we put together a you know, we went from a very, you know, very simplistic you know, the credit model that was being used, which was like a one factor model that could only move the yield curve up and down, to a, you know, to a multi-factor model that could basically, you know, it would take in hundreds of parameters, you know, until you wound up losing, you know, between interest rates and FX. And it was, you know, using this variant of the HJM model, this thing called Chayette. I don't know if you've heard of Oren Chayette.
I know Oren, yeah, but
you know, okay, so you know, his
college, model, but he's a smart guy, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I mean, I actually had not heard of his model before I started working on this stuff at B of A about a decade ago. But I mean, his, you know, it basically puts the separability constraint on the volatility, which then turns the HJM into basically makes it Markovian and takes what would basically be you know, an unsolvable, you know, in infinite, you know, infinitely many, you know, things, an unsolvable problem, and makes it rapidly solvable and
easier to calibrate probably too.
And well, back in those days, I mean, you know, we had grids. You know, this is before a lot of the cloud stuff. We had grids of thousands of computers, and we would run for you know, for the whole weekend. You know, basically doing a calibration. You know, if you could get, you know, all the nodes that you needed on the grid, and we'd have, you know, fighting with other people for access to the, you know, for usage on the grid. Now, you know, now you just basically sign up with AWS or whatever and agree to pay them whatever it is that you need. To get all the nodes that you want. But you know, which is what we're doing at Northwestern. We were moving everything, you know, on you know, onto the cloud. But you know, back when everything was done internally, I mean, it's you know, it's you know, there's always resource contention.
Yes, a lot of work.
You know, that's the issue. But good. Well, it sounds like you're looking for something. I'm looking for something. We're all looking for something.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll reach out. Maybe
nobody else is showing up today, so I guess they're not looking for anything. So
yeah, maybe it's 3. Maybe I still haven't cracked what I need to do for Europe, so maybe push it back. You know, I don't know. I'm going to go through this, and then the next 2 weeks just move into the, you know, first South Asia, Middle East, and then into East Asia, Australia, and so we'll see what happens. At least then I'll have tried, and then, you know, maybe I'll just do it rotating through those.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Part of the issue could just be that, you know, depending on what the time of year. I mean, if there's a lot, you know, other things people want to do with their time. I mean, you know,
could be vacation. Yeah, it's coming
up. You got the Olympics starting in a few days, and
you
know. You know, we just had the you know, all these soccer matches and whatnot, and you know, tennis and all these other things. So,
Yeah.
Be watching that stuff instead of wanting to spend their, whatever day it is, evening or whatever part of the day it is, babbling on about this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no,
So,
that's fine. Yeah, I'll show you my info. Maybe we can have a
sure.
drink or something or have coffee.
Yeah,
Get me out
cool.
of Brooklyn from time to time. They let me out, like once a week for good behavior. But no, it's easy for me to get in.
Yeah,
I picked a place. I've lived in Brooklyn ever since I've been on Wall Street. I'm a Bronx,
yeah.
well, born in Manhattan, grew up in the, but I find Brooklyn for either the finance downtown or midtown. It's an easy commute.
Yeah. I spent a year going to Metro Park. Is that what it's called?
Wow.
Metro Tech. Yeah, Metro Tech, JP
Interesting.
Morgan. Yeah, about 5 years ago. Because they're building that new headquarters on Park Avenue, so they had to push a lot of people out of
Oh,
Midtown.
that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I worked for
And
them
stuff.
twice in my career, but not in the current thing. But yeah, I used to take my kid to daycare at Metro Tech because we started out in Brooklyn Heights. And
Oh,
as
I
you
see. Yeah.
that's just a 10-minute walk. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that was interesting. I got to know Brooklyn a little bit because I really had not spent much time
Right.
out there. But it's kind of thing as though if you're basically one of the people who's one of the teams that are sent out there, well, it's kind of like you're kind of less important or whatever. You're
Right.
all the really interesting stuff is mainly going on in Madison Avenue or whatever.
Yeah, when I was at
Central.
380 or whatever, because I was in a few different places, yeah, our group had referred to Metro Tech as the DMZ. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know whether that was a cultural, like a racist or a cultural thing, but he would just call it the DMZ. Yeah. So what was that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of the work, I mean, they put a lot of push, and I somehow wound up under. I really didn't even understand what it was I was getting into when I joined. But, it was because
Right.
I was under in the financial division, basically, doing forecasting of P&L and stuff like that, PPNR and that kind of stuff, which
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
No, that's
found to
good.
be a lot less interesting
Right. Right.
once I was doing it because a lot of it is really just hand waving and when the granularity of your data is just monthly marks, it's really tough to do anything with it, and you're trying to join that to macroeconomic variables and try and project what's going to happen over the next
Right.
nine
Right.
quarters or whatever. It's just
It's
it's a fool's
thinking.
errand basically. It's
Yep.
what can you do? Oh well.
All right, so let me reach out to you. I gotta
Yeah,
go.
sure.
We
Great
actually
chatting
did
with
take
you.
most of the hour, and
Okay.
I'll keep you in mind for the C car and for some of the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I do need to write something about intrinsic bias or bias in AI models because there's nothing in it now. We're sort of
Yeah.
presenting some of the pitfalls, but I think implicit bias risk is something that could be a section.
Yeah, because if you don't address it, then you could always have a problem with regulators or somebody coming after you, later
Right.
on, because it could be, you have essentially latent, you could say, oh, we didn't use the race or, whatever, or the, of the customer, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it could be latent, it could be embedded in other variables. It could be the zip code. It could be, who knows? I mean, it's just a
Yep.
problem to try and be very careful about all that. So I don't know. Whatever.
All
But
right. Anyway,
if you're just dealing with institutional stuff, then obviously it's a different story because you're just dealing with bonds and whatnot. But that's life.
okay. All right. Yeah. Let me
Well,
reach out. Let's
yeah.
make
Okay.
sure to get together for a
Great
drink.
chatting with you.